let's go into polygyny, right? Being we're gonna start with going back to Genesis. Matter of fact, no, let's go to Isaiah first. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 4, right? And we're gonna go to polygyny so brothers understand if they've been taking wives, right? I'm gonna use this. We're gonna go first to Isaiah chapter 4 from the top, right? And why are we Salakia? This is so brothers have an understanding, right? So let's go into Isaiah chapter 4, chapter 4, verses 1 through 4, right? Isaiah chapter 4 from the top. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, right? We know what take hold means, right? To game up, right? Or to attach themselves in this case. So they're going to the 7 women are going to attach themselves to one man, right? And you might even hear this, oh, well, a man has to do this, has to do that for him to have multiple wives. He has to make X amount of dollars. Well, let's see what scripture says, right? Continue in verse 1, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name and to take away our reproach. How does a woman take a man's name? She becomes his wife. So 7 is just a figurative number. It's a symbolic for completion, right? So a complete amount of women, the perfect amount of women for you are going to attach themselves, and they're going to, because you can take away their reproach. Verse 2, though, let's hear the catch. In that day shall the branch of YHWH be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. Right, so it's got to be on that magnificent day. Let's keep going. Verse 3, and it shall be excellent and comely. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, and even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem. So all those that are living through Jacob's trouble and are, are moving, maneuvering and moving through all that, right? Let's keep going. Verse 4. When YHWH shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. Right? So when he wipes away our sisters, right? So they have an understanding of what is truly to be made, right? In that day is when it'll be a perfect day for that, so to speak, right? You know what I'm saying? And and we're seeing that a lot of sisters are having that old mindset wiped away, and a new one is being given to them. But let's go into Exodus 21 and 10, because now that we've seen prophecy, let's see the law. Let's go into the law that tells us how we should conduct ourselves with multiple wives, right? This is the book of Exodus, chapter 21 and verse 10. If he take him another wife, right? So now you have one wife, now you go get another one, right? Now you have 2 wives. Her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage, these 3 things, remember them, shall be not diminished. You can't do away with them. You have to, by all accounts, take care of. You can't take away from your wife to give it to another. You know what I'm saying? You can't be like, oh, well, you're not going to wear this, so I'm going to give this to wife number 2. I mean, aside the fact that it creates jealousy, I mean, it's just not wise, right? Let's go into Exodus 21 and 10 in the Good News Bible, right? Exodus 21 and 10 in the GNT. If a man takes a second wife, he must continue to give his first wife the same amount of food and clothing and the same rights that she had before, right? So it doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want and your wife has to suffer. No, it means you have a specific duty to both these women, and you can't take from the first one to give to the second one, right? Let's go to Exodus chapter 21 and verse 10. in the NLT, right? If a man who is married a slave wife takes another wife for himself, he must not neglect the rights of the first wife to food, clothing, or sexual intimacy, right? So we see if a man takes a second wife, he can't take away nothing from her, right? He has to give her what is rightfully hers, right? But people will say, well, look, you know what I'm saying? So we've seen the law on how to conduct yourself. We'll see, let's see how let's see if Abraham, our forefather, a righteous man, had more than one wife, right? Let's go to what happened? Oh, okay. Exodus chapter 25 from the top, right? Genesis chapter 25, verse 1. Then again, Abram took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shaua. You know what I'm saying? So we see even Abraham had another wife. He had a few wives, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Salakia. Ooh, let me see Ishmael. These are the sons of Ishmael. Yeah, so you know, I mean, there's Ishmael. There's a couple other kids that Abraham had. We're gonna read Genesis 25 in the reading, anyways. But let's go to Mark chapter 10, verse 11. Because people are gonna say, well, that's adultery, that's fornication, right? Well, let's go to Mark chapter 10 and verse 11 to see if having a second wife is actually what it is. Let's go to Mark chapter 10, verse 11, right? And he said unto him, whosoever shall put away his wife and marry another. Remember, and he said unto them, whosoever shall put away his wife and marry another committeth adultery against her. And if a woman shall put away her husband and be married to another, she committeth adultery. Well, we go back, you know what I'm saying? That's basically taken from the law, right? Because you're taking away from one wife to give to another, right? Creating jealousy. And you even left her, right? You left her to commit adultery, right? Let's go to Leviticus chapter 19, verse 20. Let's see again. Let's see what we're looking at with fornication, right? Let's go to Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 20. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 20. Right? Boom. This is the book of Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 20. And whosoever lieth carnally with a woman that is a bondmaid, betrothed to a husband, and not at all redeemed nor freedom given her, she shall be scourged. They shall be put to death, because she was not free. And he shall bring Salakia. You know what I'm saying? So see, when you commit adultery, is because you've lain with another that is outside of a woman that is outside of her husband, right? And you laying with a woman that has a husband, right? That's what the scriptures are saying, right? The law is telling you not to lay with this woman. Let's see if now that we've seen these laws, let's see again another example. Let's see if David, a man after the Most High's own heart, whose only sin was laying down with Uriah the Hittite's wife. Let's see about him having multiple wives, right? Let's go to First Samuel chapter 25 and verse 43. Go to First Samuel chapter 25, verse 43, right? This is the book of First Samuel, chapter 25, verse 43. David also took Aminahim of Jezreel, and were also both them his wives, right? So David had two more wives. But Saul had given Michal, his daughter, David's wife, to Phalti, son of Laish, which was Galiim, right? So that's committing adultery because she's not totally free, right? It clearly called her David's wife, right? Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 18. Again, giving us examples of our King David having having multiple wives, right? Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 18. And David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his two wives. Well, we see David having two wives. Another example, let's go to 2 Samuel 2 and 2. Why do we go here? Because we got to understand that brothers are allowed to have more than one wife, right? And that's not to say that it's not a mandate. It's not something you have to have. But if you do have one, there's ways to conduct yourself with it. And there's also understand that it is not a sin, right? Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 2. So David, went up thither, and his two wives also, and Nohim the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, Nabal's wife, the Carmelite, and Abigail, Nabal's wife, the Carmelite, right? So we see that David had two wives again. Let's see if priests had that, right? Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 24, verse 2, right? Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 24, verse 2. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 24, verses 2 and 3, right? Second Chronicles chapter 24, verse 2 and 3. And Joash did that which was right in the sight of Yahweh all the days of Jehoiada the priest. And Jehoiada took for him two wives, and he begat sons and daughters. Right? So we see the priest in that day had wives, right? And he had sons and daughters. Let's see it again. Let's go into the definition of adultery. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10. Right? Why do we do this? Because again, we got to live by these words that the Lord's servant Moses had given unto us, right? Let's go to Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 10, right? Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10. A man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteresses shall surely be put to death, right? So we see how that works, right? So now let's go back. With that in mind, let's go back to Mark chapter 10, verse 11. Let's go to Mark chapter 10, verse 11. Right? Okay, let's go to Mark chapter 10 and verse 11. Where the hell did it go? 11. Salakia, brethren, cap's a little blind. Boom. The book of Mark chapter 10, verse 11. And he said unto them, whosoever shall put away his wife and marry another committeth adultery against her. And if a woman shall put away her husband and be married to another, she committed adultery. Right? So we see again the law given in the example, right? Let's go back to the law now. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 15. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 21 and verse 15. Deuteronomy chapter 21 and verse 15. Is Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 15. And if a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be that he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him double portion of all that he hath. For he is the beginning of his strength, and the right of his firstborn is his. Right? So there's even laws. So when you have children with one wife, you love one wife more than the other. What happens? You still gotta give what's right unto that child, which is the wife of the hated, quote unquote, right? Let's go to Judges chapter 8 and verse 31, right? Let's go to Judges chapter 8 and verse 31. We're gonna again, we're going to see if righteous men of the Most High had multiple wives, right? This is the book of Judges chapter 8 and verse 30, right? Salaki. Yeah, chapter 8 and verse 30 and 31. And Gideon had 70 sons of his body begotten, for he had many wives, and his concubines that was in Shechem. She also bore him a son whose name he called Abimelech. Right? So we see that Gideon, a judge, a righteous man in the land of Israel, he had many wives, right? So it's not uncommon, right? Let's go. Let's go back to Genesis 29 as we go again into our forefather Rachel, our forefather Jacob and his wives Rachel and Leah, whom he you know what I'm saying, and the history thereof. We're gonna go to Genesis 29 verses 28 and 30, right? Salakia. Genesis chapter 29 verses 30 and 31, right? Right? 29, Salakia, 28, and let's start at 28, 29, and 30. Genesis chapter 28, chapter 29, verses 28 through 30. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her wish. He gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also. Again, looking at the key word also. And Laban gave to Rachel, his daughter, Bilhah, his handmaid, to her to be her maid. And he also went also unto Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served him yet 7 other years, right? So let's go down to Genesis chapter 30 from the top, right? And when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in God's stead, who hath withheld thee from the fruit of thy womb? And she said, behold, verse 3, and she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall break upon my knees and give me children. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife. So Jacob was given a wife from his wife, right? Well, let's go down to verse 9. Let's see if his other wife does the same. Genesis 30 and 9. And when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and she gave her Jacob to wife. Right? So Jacob had wives from his wives, right? It's pretty awesome if you ask me. Let's go to Genesis chapter 31, right? Genesis chapter 31. First, we're going to read verse 41. Genesis chapter 31 and verse 41. We got to see how our forefather Jacob was living, right? We got to see how he was living. Let's read 17 first, right? Genesis chapter 31 and verse 17. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, right? So we see he had wives. Let's go to verse 41. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house, and I have served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed wages 10 times. But he said he worked for him 14 years for his 2 daughters. So his 2 daughters were his wives, right? And let's go to verse 50, right? So this was a common practice amongst our people, is what I'm getting at as we wind down in this lesson, right? Let's go to Genesis 31 and 50, right? If thou afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. Right? So his father's acknowledging that he had both daughters, right? Let's see who we can't deal with. Let's go to Exodus, and I meant to touch up on this in the Mamzer cut video from the other night, but let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, right? Let's see who we can't deal with, right? Because we're gonna hear, especially commonly in street teaching, we hear this right here. This is Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3, right? Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters thou shalt not give to his sons, nor his daughters shalt thou take unto thy son. Right? So they'll take you right there. And that's it, right? Let's start better from the beginning. This is Deuteronomy chapter 7 from the top. When Yahweh thy power shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and has cast out many nations before thee, right? Now let's pay attention. The Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when Yahweh thy power shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show no mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his sons, nor his daughters thou shalt give unto thy son. For they shall turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of Yahweh be kindled against you, and destroy you suddenly. But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire, right? So it's telling the 7 people we can't deal with. So we can have all the wives in the world, but we just can't deal with these. First, we're dealing with them, right? Now let's go to see who else, right? And let's see how the law breaks down even your own father having multiple wives, right? Let's go to Leviticus chapter 18, and we're gonna read verses 7 and 8, right? This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 18, verse 7, verses 7 and 8, right? The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother, shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness, right? So we see you can't look at your mom, you know what I'm saying, your dad, right? But keep keying in on your mom, right? Verse 8, the nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. I want y'all to pay attention to something. It made a clear distinction and separation between your mom and your father's wife, right? Meaning that it was a common practice for your father, your own dad, to have more than one wife, right? But again, let's see for the last bit of this, let's look at a priest that did this, right? Let's go to 1 Samuel. Once again, 1 Samuel, we're going to read verses 1 and 2, right? Because we have to understand, again, the customs and practices of our forefathers, right? This is the first book of Samuel, or 1 Samuel, chapter 1, verse 1. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zippoim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeraham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Ziph, an Ephraite. And he had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peniah. And Peniah had children, but Hannah had no children, right? So we see that a priest had 2 wives, one with one wife and one with another, right? We're gonna stop right. We got one more. Let's go to Hosea 1 and 3, and then Hosea 3 and 1. We're gonna to show brothers in the Bible, and it's also we can have. It's not a law. It is, but it is not. It is not a law. It is a right though. It's not just a privilege. Don't let nobody gas you out of it. Right? I'm gonna tell you this: just because Cap doesn't practice it doesn't mean that he doesn't believe in it. Right? So let's go to Hosea chapter 1 and we'll start at verse 2, right? The beginning, the beginning, the beginning of the word of Yahweh by Hosea. And Yahweh said to Hosea, go take thee a wife of whoredoms, and the children of whoredom, for the land hath committed whoredom, departing from the Lord, right? So we have one wife right here, right? Let's go to Hosea chapter 3 and verse 1. Let me see some, because I know it. Let me see, Hosea chapter 3 and verse 1. Then said Yahweh unto me, go yet, love a woman beloved of her friend, yet an adulteress, according to the love of Yahweh toward the children of Israel, who took to other gods and loved flagons of wine. Right? And we see that, you know what I'm saying? We see that Hosea is being mandated to take another wife. But to finish the class out, I'm going to show you that the Most High has two wives. Let me see. I'm pretty sure. Boom. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 3 and start at verse 6. Right? Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 6. Yahweh said also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel have done? She has gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there has played the harlot. So he has likened Israel unto a woman, right? That was a cheating woman at that, just like we've seen in Hosea, right? Verse 7. Of Salak. Yeah, verse 7. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me. But she returned not, and her treacherous sister Judah saw it. So now he's likening Judah and Israel to women. Now we're getting the whole picture, right? But let's see how the Most High deals with this. Verse 8. And I saw when it for all causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and give her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also, right? So we see that Judah and Israel went off and into idolatry, but liking them unto women, and we being the wives of the Most High, right? Verse 9, and it came to pass through the lightness of whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and stocks. And yet for all her treacherous sister Judah hath not turned unto me with her whole heart, but vainly, said Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto me, the backsliding Israel hath justified herself more than treacherous Judah. Verse 12, go proclaim these words toward the north, and say, return thou backsliding Israel. And saith Yahweh, and I will not cause my anger to fall upon you, for I am merciful, saith Yahweh, and I will not keep anger forever. Only acknowledge thy iniquity that thou hast transgressed. Yahweh thy power hath scattered thy ways to the strangers under every green tree, and you have not obeyed my voice, saith Yahweh. Right? So verse 14, turn, O backsliding children, Yahweh, for I am married unto you, and I will take you one city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion. Right? So we see that the Most High is married unto us. You know what I'm saying? He even said it. But that's the two lessons I have for today. I will bring the last lesson I have to give. Let me see. I'll get the birthday lesson on Friday. We'll break down birthdays on Friday. For brothers listening to the recording, any questions, feel free to text the number on the description. Don't call because I generally don't answer that number. I do answer texts though. Or email us. And all that information is in the description. I do check the emails consistently, so I will answer questions. For the brothers in the chat, I will be taking your questions right now. I know brothers sat down through two lessons, so I will be asking questions, receiving questions. But with that, we like to give all honor and glory to the Most High God Yahweh in the name of His only begotten Son, YHWH, and we say Shalom.